The wind cut across the Wyoming plains like a blade, sharp with the cold promise of another long, bitter day. Dawn hadn't yet claimed the land, just a wash of bruised purple stretching above the jagged ridgeline. Frost clung to the tall grass and the barbed wire fence that marked the edge of Jacob Carter's world. 20 years of silent solitude and wind. 20 years since he'd heard a human voice that didn't belong to a merchant or a mail rider. His boots creaked as he approached the pasture gate, eyes narrowed against the morning glare. That's when he saw her, a girl, no more than 16, barefoot, tied to his fence like a rustler's warning. Her dress was torn at the hem, smeared with dust and dried blood. Ice rimmed the rope that bound her hands, thick hemp digging into purpled wrists. She lay slumped, her face buried in the brittle weeds, hair as dark as coal and brittle with frost. Jacob froze. For a moment all he could do was stare, the wind tugging at the brim of his hat. Then instinct kicked in. He dropped to his knees, the old scars on his back pulling tight with the motion. His hands, thick and weathered from years of ranch work, moved with trembling precision as he sliced through the rope with his belt knife. She stirred the moment the fibers gave way, her body recoiling violently like a wounded animal. "Don't touch me!" she gasped, scrambling backwards, her voice cracking. Jacob raised both hands. "Easy, girl. Ain't here to hurt you." She didn't run, not yet, just crouched there, arms wrapped tight around herself, breath coming in shallow gasps. Her eyes were wild, the kind of wild he remembered from looking in the mirror the first 10 years after he'd run. "You got a name?" he asked. "Sarah." She said it like it might cost her something. Jacob's gaze flicked to the wheel ruts in the frozen dirt. The prints were fresh, heading back east toward the timberline. Someone had left her here under cover of night, hoping the wolves or the weather would finish the job. He bit down on the old anger rising in his throat. "Who did this to you?" he asked. Sarah looked away. That silence didn't come from confusion. It came from memory, the kind that dug its claws into the back of your mind and never let go. "My father," she whispered. The words dropped like a stone in Jacob's gut. 20 years he'd worked this land alone, built fences, raised cattle, kept to himself. And now the ghosts had come crawling back in the form of a bruised girl and a name he couldn't forget, father. His own voice echoed through time, slurred, cruel, soaked in whiskey. "You ain't worth the bread in your belly, boy." Sarah winced as she tried to stand. Jacob stepped back to give her space. She rose slowly, favoring one side, the limp of someone used to pain. "Can you walk?" he asked. She nodded once, silent. "Come on, then." As they neared the cabin, something in the air changed. The wind carried more than cold now, it carried dust. Jacob stopped dead in his tracks, squinting toward the eastern rise. A dust cloud, fast-moving. 3 riders. He read the land like other men read newspapers. These weren't locals, these weren't travelers, these were men on a mission. "Get inside," he said. Sarah hesitated. "Now!" The cabin door shut with a hollow thunk. Inside she perched at the edge of the kitchen table, stiff as a barn cat during thunder. Jacob poured water into a tin cup and set it down gently before her. "Drink slow," she tried. Her hands shook so bad the cup rattled against her teeth. He turned to the window, watching the approaching riders draw closer. Shadows against a bruised horizon. The lead man wore a duster flapping in the wind. They moved with purpose, too quick for travelers, too silent for friends. "What do you think of Jacob's decision to help Sarah?" Drop a like and comment below to share your thoughts, Sarah, he said, not turning away from the window. "Those riders, they coming for you." Her silence was louder than any scream. "He's coming back for me," she whispered. Jacob didn't move from the window. The dust on the horizon thickened, curling like smoke as the riders crested a low hill. 3 silhouettes now clearer against the rising sun and closing fast. Sarah sat silent behind him, clutching the cup like it might vanish if she let go. "They got rifles?" he asked. She nodded. "One of them's my stepfather. The other two, I don't know, but they ride for someone else." Jacob's jaw clenched. He recognized the look in her eyes, the twitch in her shoulder when a floorboard creaked, the way her body leaned just slightly away from the door, always ready to run. She didn't need to say more. He'd lived that fear, worn it like a second skin. He turned back toward her. "Your real father?" "Not him," she whispered. "He ain't the one who raised me. The man out there, he's the one who hurt me." The wind howled against the walls like a coyote warning. Jacob walked to the stone hearth and took down the Winchester mounted above the mantel. He hadn't fired it in years, but the feel of it in his hands came back quick like a forgotten hymn. Sarah's eyes tracked him. You don't have to get involved," she said, voice brittle. "I do," Jacob replied, checking the chamber. "Because if I don't, they'll take you. And if I let that happen, then I'm no different from the man who tied you to my fence." He knelt beside the old pine chest under the window and opened it. Inside, wrapped in oilskin, were 6 boxes of ammunition, a revolver with a worn pearl grip and a coil of thick rope. "I've been running from the past a long time," he muttered. "But it's time I stopped." Sarah didn't speak, but her hands slowly unclenched. Outside, the riders pulled up just beyond rifle range, just where Jacob figured they would. Smart men, mean men. Sarah peeked through the shutters. Her voice shook. "He's here. William, the one with the scar across his jaw." Jacob didn't respond. He was already pulling on his leather coat stained from years of labor and rain. The sun had broken over the ridge now, casting long golden fingers across the prairie, turning the frost into shimmering glass. He looked toward Sarah again. "You ever fired a gun?" She shook her head. "Then you're about to learn." He handed her the revolver, grip first. She held it awkwardly like a snake that might bite. "We'll work on the stance later," he said, almost smiling. For the first time since she stepped onto his land, she breathed without shaking. Then came the voice from outside, low, sharp, and echoing. "Carter, I know you got my girl in there." Jacob stepped out onto the porch, rifle cradled in his arms. The wind tossed dust and grit at his boots, and the horses below pawed the earth like they sensed what was coming. "She's not your girl," Jacob called back. "Not anymore." The man in the center pulled his horse forward, letting the morning light cut across his scarred jaw. His hat was low, shadowing eyes that had seen too much and cared too little. That had to be William Reed. The other 2, younger, leaner, wore the kind of grins that came easy to men who'd drawn blood for coin. "You forfeiting your life over a runaway," William sneered. "She ain't worth it, Carter. Just a piece of spoiled property." Jacob didn't blink. "You tied a child to my fence like a dead coyote. That tells me everything I need to know about your worth." The younger rider to William's right leaned in and spat. "Nathan Holt sends his regards." That name landed like a gut punch. Jacob's grip on the Winchester tightened. He'd heard that name whispered in saloons and freight yards, carved into fear itself. Nathan Holt didn't send letters, he sent men, and if this was the first wave, the second wouldn't knock. She was collateral, the gunman continued. William here owed Holt more than he could pay. Instead of handing her over, he figured the wolves could settle the debt. Sarah, hidden just behind the cracked shutter, flinched at the words. Jacob caught it out of the corner of his eye, just a flicker, but it was enough. "Who's got the reins now?" Jacob asked. "The girl goes with us," the rider said, "and you get to keep breathing." Jacob let the silence stretch long and taut. The wind whipped across the plains, stirring dirt and old memories. He scanned the layout, the barn to his left, the rocky ridge just behind the cabin, a narrow ravine running down from the trees. Natural cover, high ground. He filed it away. Then he said evenly, "I need time to think." William laughed, a short barking sound. "Ain't nothing to think about." But the other man, Holt's man, raised a hand. "You've got 1 hour, Carter," he said. "Then we come back, and we won't be asking nicely." They turned and rode off, trailing dust like smoke from a burning house. Jacob closed the cabin door with slow care. Sarah stood at the table, pale as parchment. "They're going to kill you," she said. He didn't answer. Instead, he moved to the shelf beside the fireplace, pulling out a stack of hand-drawn maps, the land around his ranch. Every ridge, gulch, and cut he'd walked in solitude for years. "If they're coming," he muttered, "we're not meeting them out in the open." Sarah hovered near the table, voice cracking. "There's something else I didn't tell you." He paused. She swallowed hard. "Holt, he's not just some stranger. He's my father." Silence fell like snowfall. Jacob looked at her, really looked, and saw it now. The steel in her eyes, the defiance, the quiet fire. She was his blood. The same man who sent riders to kill had once cradled her in his arms. Or maybe not. Sarah's voice trembled. "He gave me away. When I turned 16, he wanted me back, not as a daughter." Jacob closed his eyes. The air in the room turned thick. This wasn't about money anymore. It was about ownership. And he'd be damned if he let another man write that story again. What do you think Sarah's next move should be? Like and comment below to let us know your thoughts. The cabin was quiet, save for the creak of old timber and the wind whistling through the eaves. Jacob stood by the window, hands resting on the sill, staring at nothing. His knuckles were white. Sarah sat hunched near the hearth, arms wrapped around her knees. She looked smaller now, not from fear, but from the weight of what she was about to say. "His name's Nathan Holt," she began, voice barely above a whisper. "He's my real father. My mother, she left him when I was a baby. Said she'd rather scrub floors than let him raise a daughter." Jacob didn't move, just listened. "When she married William Reed, I thought maybe things would get better. They didn't." Her voice cracked. "He started hitting me when I was 9. By the time I turned 13, he stopped pretending it was discipline." Jacob turned slowly. His face didn't change, but his eyes burned with a quiet fury. She tried to stop him. "My mama, he beat her so bad she couldn't stand right for weeks. Then one night she just disappeared." "You think he?" Sarah nodded. "Stopped asking questions when he buried something out near the cedar grove." Jacob swallowed hard. The taste of bile rose in his throat. "When I turned 16, William lost big in one of Holt's games. Cards. He didn't have the money to pay, so he offered me instead. A log popped in the fire, throwing sparks across the stone. Holt said he'd forgive the debt if William handed me over clean, no marks, no baggage. But William panicked, said if Holt found out what kind of man he really was, if he saw the bruises, he'd kill him. So instead of handing me over, he tried to erase the debt another way." "Tying you to my fence like a coyote carcass," Jacob said bitterly. She nodded. Jacob took off his hat and sat heavily in the old oak chair, elbows on his knees. "I understand more than you know," he murmured. "My old man sold me to a gambler named Crawford when I was 15. Said I was worth more to him in poker chips than under his roof. Spent 2 years shackled to a man who thought pain made boys obedient. He looked up, eyes shining but unbroken. Ran the first chance I got. Swore I'd never let another man hold a leash on me." Sarah didn't speak, didn't need to. The fire cracked between them, glowing like a wound. Then Jacob stood. "We're not waiting for them to come knocking again." He pulled down an old dust-covered oilskin map from behind the mantel. It was hand-drawn, the lines sharp and precise, showing every rock gully and hollow across 10 square miles. I dug traps across that ridgeline back when rustlers were common. Narrow trail, good cover from the wind. If they ride heavy, they'll bunch up, makes them easy targets. Sarah stood, 2 embers lighting her face. You think we can fight them off? No, Jacob said without hesitation. But we can bleed 'em. Hurt 'em enough they remember our names when they spit. He handed her a knife, short, balanced, the kind you don't throw unless you're sure. I'll teach you how to load the rifles. You watch the flanks. If they get close, shoot for the chest or the legs. You miss the head under pressure. She nodded, gripping the knife tight. Outside, the light was shifting. Golden morning haze giving way to the harsh white glare of midday. The prairie stretched endless and raw, the grass rippling like an ocean in wind. Then came the hooves. Not 3 this time, but more. Jacob moved to the porch and looked toward the eastern trail. 6 riders now. Leading them was a man on a blood-bay stallion, dressed in fine wool and leather, his silver hair catching the scene like a blade. Nathan Holt. He rode like he owned the dirt, the sky, and everything in between. Jacob turned to Sarah. He came himself. Sarah's lips parted, but no sound came. Jacob's voice dropped. That tells me 2 things. 1, he wants you real bad. 2, he's not gonna let go easy. Sarah raised the revolver with both hands. Her arms were shaking, but her feet were planted. I won't let him take me. Jacob nodded once. Then let's make him bleed trying. The cabin creaked as the riders closed in. 8 now. Jacob counted. Dust rose behind them in long, snaking columns, shimmering under the midday heat. The air smelled of gun oil, sweat, and something darker, inevitability. Jacob crouched behind the cabin's front porch, beam rifle braced against the frame. The sun glared off his iron sights, but he didn't blink. Beside him, Sarah knelt inside the back room, peeking through a crack in the logs with the Colt balanced on a makeshift cushion. Her breathing had steadied. She looked more soldier than child now, posture tense, eyes razor sharp. Remember what I told you, Jacob whispered. Don't fire unless you're sure. You miss, they move. You hit, they bleed. Sarah nodded. The riders fanned out in a loose arc just beyond the cattle fence. The man at the center, Holt, dismounted first, slow and deliberate. He dusted off his coat with the ease of someone stepping into a parlor, not a battlefield. His voice rang across the prairie, polished and cold. Mr. Carter. Jacob didn't answer. I'm not here for your land. I'm not even here for blood. I'm here for my daughter. The word hung in the heat like spoiled meat. You had your chance 16 years ago, Jacob called back. You threw her away. She was taken. Holt said, stepping forward. Her mother lied. Hid her from me. I let pride blind me once. I won't again. Sarah's whisper carried through the wall. He's lying. Jacob didn't doubt it, but something in Holt's voice, not desperation but certainty, unsettled him. This wasn't a man trying to reclaim family. This was a man reclaiming property. You want to trade, Jacob called. Holt raised an eyebrow. You walk away with your legs and I don't turn your men into corpses. A beat passed. Then William Reed stepped forward, his shoulders still bandaged from the last encounter. His voice cracked with fury. She ain't worth this. She's a broken brat and a liar. Jacob stood from cover, just enough for them to see his silhouette. She's a girl you broke and tried to bury. Now she's mine to protect. The insult landed hard. Holt raised a gloved hand to signal. 2 riders peeled left, heading for the rocks behind the cabin. Another 2 crept low toward the barn. He was surrounding them but not rushing. Tactical. Measured. A man used to winning by attrition. Jacob slid back inside and locked eyes with Sarah. You hold the ridge. If they come around, take out their horses first. Sarah nodded, already moving. He turned, moved to the back door, and kicked open the side hatch leading to the water trough. The moment his boots hit dirt, bullets tore through the front porch, splinters raining like hornets. He dropped behind the trough, heart pounding. 2 shots barked from the ridge, clean, controlled. A scream followed. One of Holt's men was down. Jacob smiled grimly. She's learning fast. He lifted his Winchester, waited for movement, and fired. One of the riders near the barn dropped from his saddle, groaning. Another ducked behind the fence post, returning fire. The heat pressed down hard, and the smell of blood mingled with sagebrush and scorched grass. Another volley cracked from the ridge. Sarah's second shot missed or glanced, but the rider turned back, yelling something lost to wind. Then a strange quiet settled over the battlefield. 5 seconds. 10. Holt stepped forward again, this time holding something high in his hand. A white cloth tied to the barrel of a revolver. "I'm not here to slaughter," he shouted. "But I will." Jacob stayed hidden. "Call the girl out," Holt continued. "Or the next time we speak, it'll be through gunsmoke and gravestones." A beat. "Then she's in the rocks, I know that much." My men saw the flash. Jacob's voice was calm. "She's not coming down, and if you force it, we both know what'll happen." Holt's jaw twitched. Then to his men, "Fall back. Regroup." The riders pulled back 100 yards, circling like buzzards, waiting for a fresh kill to stumble. Inside the cabin, Jacob wiped sweat from his brow and reloaded. Sarah returned, dirty and wind-chapped, her hands still shaking but her eyes firm. "I winged one. You did better than most men your age would." She didn't smile, just asked, "What now?" Jacob stared out the window at the waiting line of dust and guns. "Now," he said, "we show them how 2 broken things can still stand tall." The prairie stilled under the weight of silence. A hawk circled overhead, wings stretched against the yawning sky. Below, tension coiled like a snake beneath the dust. Then Holt dismounted. No show of force, no guns, just a slow walk toward the cabin, boots crunching over brittle earth. His coat snapped in the wind, silver hair glinting under the midday glare. "Stay inside," Jacob murmured to Sarah, crouched by the window. "Keep the Colt trained on the doorway." She didn't argue. Jacob stepped onto the porch, rifle at his side, but not raised. The old wooden boards groaned beneath him, a warning of every decision about to echo into blood. Holt stopped 10 paces out. "You ever shoot a man in the back, Carter? Only if he deserved it." Holt smiled, faint and joyless. "You think you're the good guy in this?" Jacob didn't blink. "I think I'm the man standing between a girl and the grave you built for her." A flicker crossed Holt's face, not shame, not anger. Something deeper, older, regret. "I never wanted this," he said. "When her mother ran, I told myself it was her choice, that she took the child to punish me. But part of me hoped they both vanished forever." "You got your wish," Jacob said. "So why'd you come looking?" Holt's voice softened, stripped of grandeur. "Because she's all I have left. And because pride doesn't taste so sweet when you're eating it alone." He looked toward the ridge. "I didn't know Reed had been hurting her. If I had, you'd have done what Jacob snapped, stopped him, or just dressed her up better before you handed her off again." That landed hard. Holt's face hardened. "You think I'm some kind of monster?" Jacob's silence answered for him. From the shadows inside, Sarah spoke. "Then stop talking like one." Both men turned. She stepped out. Revolver lowered but not holstered. Her boots crunched the dirt as she approached, wind tugging at her hair, the sun lighting her face in angles sharp with defiance. Holt stared. His voice cracked when he finally spoke. "You look like her." Sarah didn't flinch. "Don't say her name." You gave me away. Before I had teeth. Before I could even crawl." Holt opened his mouth, closed it. Something broke in his expression, the cold certainty melting into something messier. Human. I made mistakes, he said. Sarah's voice didn't waver. No, you made choices. Holt swallowed. Let me fix this. Come with me. I'll keep you safe. You want to keep me, she said coldly. That's not the same. The wind gusted, tugging dust between them. I don't want your name, Sarah whispered. I want your distance. Holt nodded slowly. Then he said almost to himself, I never thought she'd stand her ground. She's got a teacher now, Jacob said. They stood like that, three people bound by blood and scars and the unbearable tension between forgiveness and survival. Then Holt turned. He walked back to his horse in silence, mounted with the ease of a man carrying decades of weight. To his men he said, Stand down. And then without another word he rode off slower than before, like something had uncoiled in his spine and left him hollow. Sarah watched him vanish over the ridge. Her voice trembled. Is that it? Jacob watched the horizon. Not yet, because in men like Holt, mercy always carried a shadow. The prairie didn't stay quiet long. By dusk, the dust returned thicker this time. 20 riders, at least, their silhouettes stretching long across the dying sun. The hoofbeats came like thunder rumbling through the ground and into Jacob's bones. They're back, he said, stepping out onto the porch. Sarah followed, revolver at her side, cheeks smeared with dust. The wind carried the smell of sulfur and sweat. Her fingers didn't tremble anymore. Jacob studied the horizon, jaw clenched. Holt brought the whole damn book this time. As the riders drew near, they slowed, a dark tide pulling up just shy of the barn, and at the center of it, astride the blood-bay stallion, was Nathan Holt. But this time he wasn't alone. Slung across the back of one horse, lifeless, dragged by rope, was a deer carcass wrapped in Jacob's ranch tarp. A message. This is what happens to those who resist, Holt dismounted with quiet finality, the weight of certainty in his boots. Mr. Carter, he called. I've been generous. I offered words, mercy, even truth. Jacob didn't answer. Holt unwrapped the tarp and let the bloody mess slide to the dirt. You refused me, and now I'm done asking. He raised his hand. One of his men rode forward, pulling a short bundle from his saddlebag, sticks of dynamite, lashed tight, fuse already cut and ready. Jacob's stomach dropped. You fire that into the ridge, he said, you'll bury her. Holt looked toward the rocks, expression unreadable. She's holed up, isn't she? Just like her mother used to, stubborn, hiding behind cliffs instead of speaking her mind. He took the dynamite, pulled a match from his coat and struck it against his belt buckle. Flame hissed. Don't, Jacob said. Convince her, Holt replied, lighting the fuse. Jacob's mind raced. 30 seconds, maybe less, Sarah, he shouted. You come down now, he'll take you, but you'll survive, no. Her voice rang from the ridge. Not like that, I can't protect you from a goddamn explosion. She didn't answer. Holt took one step forward, ready to throw. Then Jacob did the only thing he could. He ran, off the porch, across the yard, toward the fire in Holt's hand. The world slowed, dust rising around his boots, the sun bleeding across the sky. He collided with Holt just as the stick left his fingers. The dynamite arced wide and exploded mid-air over open prairie, a bloom of dirt and flame that shook the ground. Both men hit the dirt hard. Jacob rolled, coughing, ears ringing. When the dust settled, he found himself face to face with Holt and a revolver leveled at his chest. You stupid bastard, Holt spat, eyes full of fury and something else. Hurt. She was mine. No, Jacob said, quiet but firm. She was herself. You just never earned the right to say otherwise. The wind caught the edge of Jacob's coat, flaring it like a war banner. Then another sound cut through the standoff boots on dirt. Sarah. She stood at the ridge now, rifle in hand, aimed at Holt. and behind her in the setting sun the prairie glowed orange and gold like it was holding its breath. "You pull that trigger," Holt said without looking, "and I'll shoot him before I fall." Sarah didn't flinch. "Then I'll shoot you twice." For a heartbeat, none of them moved. Then came another voice, soft, almost apologetic. "Boss." One of Holt's men stepped forward, rifle down. "She's got the drop on you. You kill him, she kills you. This don't end right for anybody." Holt's eyes flicked toward the ridge, saw the truth in her stance, her aim, the resolve. Something inside him crumbled. He looked down at Jacob, blood on his lip, dust on his coat. "I lost her," he whispered. "Didn't I?" Jacob nodded. "You never had her." Holt sat back on his heels, then holstered his weapon slow. He stood, dusted himself off, walked over to his horse. From the saddlebag, he pulled a thick envelope and tossed it to the ground in front of Jacob. "There's enough in there for a new name, new land, new life." He mounted, eyes never leaving the ridge. "She was fire before she was even born," he said, "just like her mama." Then to his men, "Ride out. No fanfare, no threats, just departure like a storm that had finally wept itself dry." As the hoofbeats faded into the night, Jacob pushed himself upright, coughing. Sarah ran to him, not crying, not shaken, just fierce. "You all right?" He smiled weakly. "You shot at him." She helped him to his feet. "I aimed to kill." He nodded. "Good. You might need that again." The night came soft and heavy. No more riders, no more shouting. Just the chirr of crickets and the wind whispering secrets through the broken fence line. They buried William Reed behind the barn. No stone, no prayer. Just dirt, silence, and two pairs of tired hands. Jacob didn't say a word during the burial. Neither did Sarah. When it was done, they packed light, a rifle, canteens, maps, and the envelope Holt left behind, thick with bills and deeds. Blood money. Jacob almost burned it. Almost. By dawn, they rode west. The horses' hooves cut through the pale light, their shadows long and stretched ahead of them like ghosts trying to outrun themselves. "You sure Colorado's far enough?" Sarah asked, adjusting the hat Jacob had given her, a little too big but fitting in the right kind of way. "It's far enough for a start." They rode in silence for a while. Prairie rolled on, endless open, the land still healing from the violence left behind. Sarah broke the quiet. "Do you think he meant it?" she asked. "Holt, when he said he was sorry." Jacob thought long before answering. "I think men like him feel something close to sorrow," he said. "But not for the right reasons." Sarah's face was calm, still, but her fingers tightened around the reins. "You think he'll come back?" Jacob looked to the horizon as if expecting to see silver hair glinting in the distance. "No, but I think he left a trail, and trails invite hunters." They rode into a patch of sagebrush, the smell sharp and earthy. Coyotes watched from a distant ridge. Somewhere a hawk screamed, not out of hunger but warning. They stopped for water near an old dried creek bed. As Jacob filled their canteen, Sarah knelt beside the cracked bank and pulled something from her coat pocket. A letter, folded once, sealed with wax. Jacob raised an eyebrow. "He left it on my saddle," she said. "Didn't see it till we were half a mile out." He hesitated. "You read it?" She nodded. "Just once." Jacob didn't press, but after a moment Sarah passed it over. He opened it slow. The handwriting was neat, elegant, practiced. "Sarah, I don't deserve to call you mine. I know that now. I tried to fix something with power and fear tools that failed me as a father and failed you as a daughter. If one day you need something, anything, send word to the Black Rock Bank in Cheyenne. I'll be watching from afar, not to claim you, just to protect. You'll never owe me a thing. But if the world tries to hurt you again, let me be the knife, not the hand. N.H." Jacob folded the letter carefully and handed it back. He didn't say what he thought because he didn't know if it was hope or poison in those words. Sarah tucked it into her saddlebag, didn't look back. By sunset, the mountains were visible in the distance, jagged teeth against a lavender sky. A new horizon. Jacob turned in his saddle. The plains behind them stretched wide and empty, the cabin now no more than memory. The place he had buried his past and somehow found a future. "You know," he said, voice low, "you shoot like someone born with fire in her hands." Sarah smiled faintly. "Must be genetic." They rode on, but behind them, far back in the Wyoming dusk, a figure watched from atop a low ridge, still silent, unmoving. A man in a black duster. Alone. No horse. No smoke. Just boots planted firm in the dirt and a long-range spyglass tucked back into his coat. His breath curled in the cold. Then he turned, vanishing into the gathering dark. The trail never ends. But sometimes it doubles back. The story of Jacob Carter and Sarah delivers profound life lessons about resilience, redemption, and the power of standing up against injustice. It highlights the strength found in confronting one's past as Jacob transforms his pain into a shield for Sarah, teaching us that healing comes through action, not avoidance. Sarah's courage to defy her oppressive father and stepfather underscores the importance of self-worth and the refusal to be defined by others' cruelty. Their bond, forged in shared trauma, emphasizes the value of chosen family and protecting the vulnerable, reminding us that true strength lies in compassion and defiance against tyranny. The narrative also warns of the lingering shadows of unresolved pasts, urging us to face them bravely. If this story moved you, like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment to let us know how it inspired you.